We're going to be video recording this. Afterwards, we'll take some questions.
Can you hear me?
Yep, sounds good.
All right. Hi, I'm Jack Ames.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Jack Ames. I'm the director and founder of Defend Life. We're here at historic Rosenstiel Knights of Columbus. Wonderful, one of the oldest Knights of Columbus councils here in the state of Maryland, here in Silver Spring. And we are experiencing this wonderful hospitality of these great knights. They're actually doing something for the cause. So this is our second day of our 24th annual Face the Truth Tour. 24 years ago, we started doing this, showing what abortion really is. And as Father Pavone has said, Frank Pavone, if we're only ever going to stop abortion, American people need to see abortion. So that's what we've been doing these last 24 years. This is the second day of our 24th Maryland Face the Truth Tour. And we beg people who are watching this video to start them in your communities. You may not have to do a whole week. You just go to your courthouse, you go to some significant places, and you show the victim images of these thousands and thousands, millions of babies that are being killed by abortion. And now it's only going from bad to worse because we're going from surgical to chemical abortions. Anyway, this is day 2 of year 24, and the date is actually Tuesday, June the 25th. And at each day, we have a wonderful luncheon, and we have a wonderful luncheon speaker. This year, we're privileged to have a young lady by the name of Olga Fairfax. She's unique within the pro-life movement. Now, a couple of things that make her unique is she's, first of all, she's 84 years young. She's still going full speed. There's no slowing down at this point. But I'm going to ask her a few questions. First question I'm going to ask Olga is how you got involved in pro-life. Can you tell us that, Olga?
Sure. Thank you, Jack. And I admire Jack so much. He's one of my many heroes, and you all are the others. So, how did I get started? I titled this little talk, I lived my life backwards. Okay? The mantra in the 1950s, when I was growing up, was grow up, get married, and have kids. Not anymore. It's don't grow up, don't get married, and don't have kids. And I myself fell into that lie because I felt that I was not growing up. I had friends who were living in basements, living in attics, living in cars, trailers, garages, whatever. And you all have friends that are doing the same thing too. Anyway, I say that I'm 84 years young because I take my birth date like the Japanese from the moment of conception. So I was born in 1941. Every teacher that I knew in Montgomery County, and that's where I was teaching art, was on the pill. Every teacher that I knew was young, married or not married, they were on the pill. I thought kids were expensive, inconvenient nuisances.
I agree.
For the benefit of our viewers, Montgomery County is doing basically one of Washington, D.C.'s bedroom communities immediately north. Very pro-abortion area, messed up schools, but she was trying to go counter to what the flow was. And this was a long time ago. Has it gotten better? Not, I don't think so.
Thank you, Jack. I appreciated that. I chose my parents very well. We lived in Chevy Chase, and both of them during the Depression, when 1/3 of all workers in the country were unemployed. My parents both had good jobs. They both drove new cars, and they both were fairly well off, money in the bank, so to speak. Anyway, they got married in the depths of the Depression, 1934. And my mom and dad, my dad had been divorced, and he said to my mother, he said, Marie, if you keep working for the government, you won't know an honest man when you see one.
Amen.
Yeah. My father was born again, I know. My mother never attended church, but I'll let God judge her because she was a marvelous mother. Anyway, she was a lapsed Catholic. My sister was born about a year after they got married, and then I came along 4 years ago, and 4 years later. And to prove how jealous my sister was, one day when we were getting the Evening Star newspaper, I knew exactly the time that the newsboy was going to bring the newspaper by. So I had two great big red crayons. I was sitting on the front porch in Petworth, and oh, here comes the boy right now with the newspaper. Isn't that convenient? So anyway, he gave me the newspaper. I opened it up with my red crayon, folded it back up, and then when...
Gave it to Dad.
No, didn't do that. I didn't think that quick. Anyway, my sister was livid. She could have killed me, literally, because I was about 5 and she was about 9. Anyway, the newspaper was delivered, and somehow my life was spared. We got along fairly well, but the 4 years was too big a difference in age for both of us. We both attended Holy Cross Academy. I just barely graduated from 8th grade. My sister, of course, 4 years later, and brilliant. She was getting scholarships. She got 2 scholarships, one to Catholic University and one Rochester School of Music. Yeah, okay. Anyway, I had the best growing up. It was my mother and father were both Christian and well educated, getting the newspaper, traveling a great deal. And I married at age 24.
Let me ask a question.
Where did you go to high school?
I went to Stone Ridge.
Tell us about Stone Ridge.
Yeah, well, I'll be brief on this because every once in a while when I go past the abortion mill right here on Beersville Road, I see a car with, guess what? A Stone Ridge round decal on the back. Now,
Stone Ridge was nominally Catholic, right?
Yes, yeah,
You would not know that from the name.
no.
What was
because
the
it's
order of nuns who ran it?
Sacred Heart.
But they were good Catholic.
Oh yeah, and I had all nuns. There were no secular teachers there at the time in the 50s when I was attending there. Anyway, anytime my mother would correspond to a friend of hers in Ireland who had 10, imagine, 10 children, it was like, my mother was always kind of like making fun of them. Can you imagine Mary in Ireland going, through that childbirth and so forth 10 times? So anyway, every teacher that I knew in Montgomery County was on the pill. I mean, they just assumed whether if you were getting married
And you
or
were
not.
teaching art.
Yeah,
In
yeah.
Montgomery,
Yeah. And my husband loved boating, so we bought a boat. It was either a baby, B-A-B-Y, or a B-O-A-T. Well, you know what won out? The boat. So we got a boat. And I was thinking that was our baby. Selfish on my part. Yeah, rock the baby. Anyway, I got a master's degree from Wesley Methodist Seminary in Washington, D.C.
What was the name of it?
It was the, it's a
Wesley.
Methodist, Seminary.
So
Yeah.
now let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Your father was a practicing Methodist.
Yeah.
Your mother was basically lapsed Catholic. And your father would take you to Sunday school at the Methodist church, right?
Yeah.
So you were really brought up a Methodist.
Yeah.
And then you went to the Methodist seminary here in Washington, D.C., Wesley. And take us from there. What happened at Wesley and then what happened afterwards?
Okay. You all heard of Charles Colson, Chuck Colson, Reverend Chuck Colson. Okay. I read his book called Born Again. I loved it because I felt that at that transition time in my life, I was being born again.
So Chuck Colson had an impact on you.
Oh yeah, very much so. But I was embarrassed for him. Why? Because he was almost laughed out of our chapel service. People were coming out, oh, that's funny. He says he's born again. I mean, it was derision. It was mocking him. But I accepted him, and I, loved him very much.
Now, at this point, you actually become an associate pastor at a Methodist church, right?
No, I had to graduate.
You had to graduate first.
From Wesley Seminary.
Okay, so let's say you graduated now. What happened next?
Okay, the next thing, I was appointed.
You don't need these notes.
I was appointed the associate pastor of Glenmont Methodist Church, right here on Georgia Avenue. Big church. And I was in shock when I asked them, with the March for Life coming up, I said, could I have just a table, one table, to put pro-life literature on? And the president, Dr. Knight, said, yeah, that's okay, you can do that. When I came in the next morning, there were 2 tables there. I thought, oh, isn't that nice and generous of them? They're giving me 2 tables, not just one. Wrong, wrong, wrong. When I got up there, it was gorgeous. Printed 5-color family type literature.
But what was it about?
It was pro-abortion, and unapologetically pro-abortion. So, what, honey?
In a church?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Well, now
We'll have
all.
questions afterwards. Go ahead.
Yeah. Anyway, all the way down Georgia Avenue from here, every Methodist church does what they call the gay flag. Well, I don't use the word gay because there's nothing gay about them.
But what happened about a week later, March for Life coming out? What happened to
Oh,
your
yeah.
table?
Well, it was taken away. It was taken away. And I tried to give out literature by hand, but frankly, it didn't work very well. Anyway,
You don't need that. Now let me ask you another question.
What happened next? You actually became an associate pastor at a Methodist church. What was the name of it?
It was at Oakdale Emory Methodist Church up on Georgia Avenue.
And there was a time that you wrote a wonderful pro-life sermon.
Yeah.
And what happened next? Walk us through that.
Okay. Well, I was transitioning also, and the sermon itself, the first thing I noticed is a couple right down in about the 3rd pew got up and walked out. That was not a good sign. But anyway, the pastor called me that afternoon and he said, Olga, I have called a pastor-parish relations committee meeting for tomorrow night, Monday night. I want you to be there. So it sounded kind of threatening. But I was there. There were 10, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 pastors and lay people and others from the church around this table.
How many were men? How many were women?
Well, it was more or less even.
Equal, okay.
Yeah, but I was actually shocked because I thought that this was like an inquisition. I mean, I was looking at my hands. My God, are those hands got nail holes in them like Jesus? Well, it felt like it. Believe me. I mean, they were out to really despise me. And
So what did they say?
well, they just said, we are questioning your statistics and the whole premise of your sermon that I gave with their permission. And they said that I should submit my sermon to them, and they were all lay people,
For approval.
Exactly. I said, and I had just finished reading a book about Karl Marx, and I said, that sounds like fascism. Well, boy, they didn't like that, but I was not about to give my sermon every week to these people, whom I knew and loved. So they kind of backed off a little bit, a very little bit. But anyway,
Now, wasn't there a time when the senior pastor said you dropped off a copy of your pro-life homily? And what happened then?
Yeah, well, it wasn't exactly a copy of the homily, but it was some pro-life pictures and talk that I was going to give. Okay. And I had put them on his desk, and about 3.5 minutes later, he comes into my office and he just almost threw them on my desk. Just like that, And I picked them up and I went, oh my goodness, I recognize this. So they didn't like that at all.
And so what did he say?
Well, he said, don't ever put anything like that on my desk again. So that was kind of a threat.
So what happened next? Tell us about your journey out of the Methodist Church and into the Catholic Church.
Well, I realized that I was totally incompatible with pro-aborts, and they were also celebrating sodomy. Every Methodist church down the Georgia Avenue had what I call a sodomy flag. Now, they don't have the flags anymore. They have brick and mortar signs. So they're getting more and more into permanency. They don't want just a flag. So, anyway.
So tell us how you ultimately either
left the Methodist Church, got fired, kicked out, or whatever, and how you tried very hard. You started Methodist for Life, right?
Yeah.
But ultimately that didn't fly. And tell us about your journey to the Catholic Church and all you've done for the pro-life movements. Your hundreds of talks, your leafleting, your arrests, and some of those other exciting things that I'm sure all the listeners would love to hear.
Thank you, Jack. Anyway, yes, it was very upsetting to me because I loved the Methodist Church. But I realized that the Religious Coalition for Abortion Rights was housed in the Methodist Church building on Capitol Hill. You got that picture? So I was fighting not just my local Methodist church, but worldwide Methodist Church. They were supporting two things God hates. He hates sodomy, and he hates aborticide.
That's right. Yes.
okay.
Yeah.
So
So
tell us how you left or got kicked
yeah,
out.
well, I composed a brief sermon telling my congregation how much I loved them. I thanked them for being patient with me, and the fact that I was leaving the Methodist Church. I was leaving. I just felt that there was no common ground at all for me. So
You actually preached that.
Oh yeah.
So
yeah.
what was the reaction of the congregation? Did they come up and hug you and say, don't leave, or what?
No. I would guess a couple of them did, but it was just awful. It was terrible. It was just terrible. I felt like Jesus being on the cross. Frankly, I really did, and I don't equate my life with his. But anyway,
Your papers
Okay.
are over there.
Oh,
Yeah.
thank you.
Next to
But
Jack.
let me ask you a few more
Next to
questions.
Jack.
Sure.
So you're out of the Methodist Church, your swan song. So what happened next? No, let's stay in there. What's happening next?
Okay, well, I told him I was going to form an organization called Methodist for Life. And I did. And that's when invitations started coming in to me to speak all over the country. I mean, I was flying to California every couple of weeks, New York, Miami, New Orleans a lot, or what do they call it?
All over the country.
Yeah,
Los Angeles.
Yeah, quite a bit.
And
yeah.
were they paying you for this, or
Well,
paying your expenses, or what?
if I could drive within 8 hours of the place, no, I would just drive myself. But some of the places, obviously, California was just a little bit too far.
But there were some Methodists around the country who were actually pro-life.
Oh yeah, thank God. That was a real blessing for me. Anyway, I had one really kind of funny experience, and it involves your t-shirt, because I love these t-shirts. I got now about 6 of them, and I do wear them every week. And I was in the Columbia Mall, which is an absolute godless place. All these new towns, Ashburn, Montgomery Village, and the others around. Bowie really kind of started it. Anyway, the escalator was going up like this in the middle of the mall, and then I was going down on the same escalator. And of course I had my t-shirt on, and we got to the middle of it where we were crossing, and this young man, probably 18 years of age, looked at my shirt and he says, "Pro-life, yes!" So I was thrilled. I was absolutely thrilled.
And the escalator stopped.
No, it didn't stop. It didn't stop.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Tell us some more good stories.
Yeah. Well.
No, don't worry
Oh,
about
okay.
it. Your notes are
Yeah,
gone.
okay.
I'll take that.
Oh, okay. Anyway, I felt that I was making an impact, and that the pro-life movement was just like a sleeping giant that God had called me to awaken. And so I was encouraged by that, and then I started getting letters and things like that. Anyway,
Let me ask you this. Who were some of the pro-life celebrities, giants, who really had an impact on you? You mentioned those the other day.
Chuck Colson.
Okay, but Chuck, well, he's out of the picture.
Yeah.
Who were some of the, and he was more of an evangelist. He was pro-life, but that was
Right.
not his primary
Right.
focus.
You're
Who were
right.
some of the great pro-life heroes who had a great impact on you?
Well, I wish I could say a lot of them, but they just were not. They were either kind of sleeping giants themselves.
Well, you mentioned some the other day. Might I remind you of them?
Yes, please.
Bernard Nathanson.
Oh
You read
yeah,
his
oh my
books.
God, yeah.
Tell the people who Bernard Nathanson was.
Okay. Anyway, I heard and I read Born Again. I think it was one of his.
The abortion papers.
Yeah, the abortion papers.
And Aborting America.
Aborting America. Boy, that had an effect.
Now
on
explain
me.
who Bernard
Nathanson
Nathanson
was. Okay. He ran the largest pro-abort arbitorium in the world from New York City. In fact, his first book was of the fact that when he would get to his abortion mill about 6:30 in the morning, it was already full of chairs like you're sitting on, mothers, and we've got to keep that in mind. Don't call them women. Call them who they are, mothers, okay? So every seat was taken, and then he'd start calling me, and it was just a
So these
giant-
women were flying in because in New York, abortion was legal up through the 18th week, even before Roe
Roe v.
versus
Wade, you're right.
in 1973.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
they had these package deals. Nathan was an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Where your airfare from Chicago or wherever to New York,
Yeah.
and your abortion and your return it was all part of the package.
Mhm.
And you got to go back to Chicago or wherever, same day.
Yeah.
And then what happened?
Well, I just,
So we're talking about Nathanson that had his conversion.
yes, praise
But
God.
before we even go there, who was the other great pro-life hero who had a great impact on you?
Well, Joe Scheidler,
Yeah.
up in Chicago.
But I'm thinking of a person from Cincinnati and his wife. What were their names?
Oh, yeah, they invited me, my God.
Dr. Jack Wilkie and
Jack
his wife
Wilkie,
Barbara.
yeah. And what happened with the Wilkies, who I still admire tremendously, is they said, sharpen your language. Like I just said, don't call them abortion places. Don't call them that. No. That or abortion centers. No, they're not abortion centers. They're killing places. They're murdering babies. And so I just kept using those words, and then people started saying, "Yeah, you know, she's great. She's telling the truth." So that was a huge transformation in my life, to change the language that I was using and to let people
To
know.
sharpen your language,
Yeah.
very important.
Yeah.
So it's so important we as pro-lifers don't use the pro-abortion rhetoric. Choice, they came up with that, that's
No,
their word.
That's right.
Clinics, never.
Never,
Right.
absolutely, never.
Centers, better, but still mushy.
Not as good.
Call
Yep.
them, as my great friend Joe Schroeder came up, call them abortuaries.
Yeah, oh, I use that word a lot. Yeah,
Or death camps, that's what they are.
death camps, they're like Dachau.
Now, who are some of the other great pro-life leaders who had an impact on you? You mentioned one of Dr. Bill.
Hogan,
Tell us about Dr. Bill Hogan.
okay. I'd never heard of him before, but I learned Dr. Bill Hogan, and of course
Who's still with us, by the way.
yeah. Anyway, the Hogan, I felt he was the only one who was even slightly pro-life. So I started campaigning, for him. But I felt he was very disappointing, frankly.
No, I think you're confusing Dr. Bill Hogan with his godson, former Governor Larry Hogan.
Oh yeah, you're right.
Big,
Yeah.
big difference, okay?
Yeah.
Bill Hogan was a hero, Larry Hogan,
Man,
disaster.
Yeah. Yeah.
But anyway, Bill Hogan, OBGYN, practiced right over here, just miles.
Right, yeah.
At that beautiful hospital on the Beltway. What's the name of it, by the way?
Holy Cross.
Yes. And went around, this is before Roe versus Wade, and he practiced OBGYN all day, and then he would travel to Southern Maryland or wherever and give
Give
a
a
talk.
talk. Yeah. I came to absolutely love him. In fact, obviously I was not a Catholic, but I went to his office one time, and I thought the visit would be about me. No. He went over to his cabin, and I'll still see him opening the door, and the whole cabinet was full of what? Pro-life literature.
It
And
probably came pummeling out.
Oh yeah, just about. Anyway, so I realized how important literature was and how important bumper stickers are. Do you know in normal driving, one bumper sticker can show to 10,000 people in normal driving one day? 10,000 people will read your bumper sticker. Now, for some reason, my sweet, darling, deceased now husband never put a pro-life bumper sticker on his car. And I don't know why, and I looks from the men all over here, they don't put bumper stickers on their cars.
Do you put bumper stickers on your car?
I've always had about 12. I've always had about 10 or 12 bumper stickers on my car.
Tell us about your leafleting experience.
Oh yeah, okay, I'll get to that in 1 minute. Anyway, I always look, when I come to a red light, I look behind me in the mirror, and somebody is either taking the picture of the back of my car or reading it. That's what we want. We want to convert people's minds. And how to do it? Put the papers in front of them. Hand out, always keep something, women, in your purse, pro-life literature. I'm handing it out like crazy. And most people, well, they'll take it. God only knows what they do with it. But anyway, I think that we ought to have Goebbels in Nazi Germany. He was the minister of propaganda. And we've got to do the very same thing. So empty your purse out. In fact, one time, oh God, my arm was hurting me. I mean, really hurting. I'd never had anything like that before. And finally I thought, you know what it is? It's all that pro-life literature.
Let me ask you this. Now, if bumper stickers have a great impact, what has an even greater impact? The pictures of what?
Well, the aborted babies.
Yes, the victim images of
Yeah.
aborted babies,
My
which
fa-
is why we're here.
Exactly.
Right?
My favorite bumper sticker that I still have on my car shows a baby in utero, and it says, "Mother, observe your son." Wow, if that doesn't hit you right here. Mother, observe your son. And I often wonder when I see mothers looking at that picture of the bumper sticker, and it says, "Mother, observe your son." Listen to your son.
Olga, I have another question for you.
Yeah.
What happened to you at a nearby abortuary within the last year?
Oh my. Well, first of all, they always conceal their location. They don't want to stand out. Now, for 2 years with 3 Knights of Columbus from this council, I go to the abortion mill in the heart of the Black Hispanic district, okay? And thank
And that's
God.
PG or Montgomery we call it, or county.
But it's on the, almost on the very edge.
Okay.
On the very
But just
edge.
miles from you.
Yeah, close by. And I've only been able to recruit 3 people.
Okay, but tell us what happened on that particular day.
Yeah, okay. Well, because I'm 80, what am I, 84, yeah. I sit down now. I never sat down, picketing and so forth. Anyway, I sat down
On a
and
folding chair.
on a folding chair that a pro-life lady gave to me. It's upholstered, it's very nice.
And you had this big victim image baby.
Oh, yeah.
Like we use in the face of
yeah,
tourists.
exactly.
I think it was the second trimester of Word of Baby.
It was.
Whom we call Malachi.
Malachi, yeah.
So what happened
Yeah.
next?
Well, I was sitting there and holding this great big sign. Bam! On the back of my head. I couldn't believe it. Somebody hit me with the biggest can of black spray paint I've ever seen. Yeah, just whack, whack, whack. And then she walked around the front of me, like this. And of course, she had the advantage. Why? I was sitting down, she was standing up and hitting repeatedly. But thank God, my other 3 friends.
No,
they-
she spray painted your sign, is what you
Yeah,
said.
yeah. The spray painted my sign, my hand. I looked crazy because I'm a white woman, and this hand was totally black. And the spray paint, I make most of my clothes. It was a pink dress, and she spray painted my pink dress. Well, thank God it was water-based paint. It was not oil-based. So when I got home, I tried to get it out. And
Okay.
it came on.
But so what happened afterwards? Did they apprehend
Oh,
this assailant, the
no,
person who could have killed you?
no, dream on, Jack. No, they never apprehended her. And people had taken pictures of her as close from here to here.
It was on the internet, picture of full face,
Exactly.
Yeah.
clearly she had a T-shirt on.
Right.
Everything, and nobody knew nothing.
I know, absolute silence. And I went to the police
What
station.
even in the news, it could have been all over the news,
And the police were completely
Yeah.
black
Just
and
dismissed like it was
healthy.
nothing.
Okay, we still have some questions here. So, remember, answer my question. What happened with the police?
Nothing.
Nothing.
Zero.
So,
Zip.
this
Nada.
person who could have killed you
Yeah.
is still at large.
Oh, yeah.
And what was the name of the police district?
It was the Langley Park,
And that's in Prince George's County or
Prince
what?
George's County.
Yes.
Yeah.
And what's the name of the police chief?
Oh, I've forgotten now. I
We'll
got it all
have to
written
splice
down.
that into the video.
I have a feeling they acted like it was nothing.
Okay?
Yeah.
So, what advice would you give to pro-life activists?
Keep doing it. Keep doing it. Keep doing it. Keep doing it. Don't let them slow you down. Okay? And so we have not missed a Saturday morning from 9 to 10:30 in 2 years.
At that abortion.
At the
that
abortion, yeah.
where-
And I tell people, and it's true, our adopted daughter, our only child, had a black father and a white mother. And she's a gorgeous girl, and number 2 in the Barnes & Noble bookstore. Very smart. But anyway, I show them, I say, this is my daughter. I'm not prejudiced. I'm not coming into your neighborhood to beat up on you. I'm saying we need your help. Our daughter looks like you, okay? And that has been very convincing, I think.
You're killing the future members of your race.
Exactly, yeah.
So, thank you so much, Olga.
Okay, you're welcome.
Let's hear it for Olga Fairfax.
Now we have time for just a few questions for Dr. Fairfax, Reverend Fairfax, whatever you want to call her. And by the way, really didn't talk about your conversion to the Catholic faith, but just for the record, she's a devout Roman Catholic. Praise God.
Thank you, Jesus.
Now, who has a question for Olga Fairfax?
I have a question. What did you say to the woman?
Here,
What did you
come
say
up
when
and
she
ask
was
your
in it was
question. Come up and
hitting
ask your question. For the tape. Come up and ask your
We got it,
question.
George.
When she was hitting on me,
What did you say when the woman was hitting you with the spray
Stop!
paint?
Stop! Stop! Help! Help! You know, and several people would look at me, and one young man, so help me, he never took his eyes off of his cell phone. And he was leaning against a telephone pole, and here I'm screaming 10 feet from him. And it was like, do you remember the Genovese story in New York?
Kitty.
They identified 32 people who saw her and heard her, did nothing. So I felt as helpless as she did.
But the good
I thought there was
news
one
is,
gentleman that.
Good news.
stopped her.
Hold that thought, okay? The good news is there are a couple of real wonderful Knights of Columbus. One of whom is sitting right next to us, Joe Gillen, who did come to the rescue. Unfortunately, the police said they could not use facial recognition software to identify this assailant. So, who has another question for Olga? Yes.
I think it's
Here.
related,
God, here.
but do you
For the-
remember in Baltimore, there was two men
Speak into
that
the
were
microphone.
assaulted.
Speak into the microphone so
Okay.
people can hear it.
There was two men that were assaulted in Baltimore at the abortuary, and what happened with that was the same thing. I don't think they ever got apprehended.
Mark Crossley. Yeah.
Mike Crosby and Dick Schaefer.
Right.
Even though some retired New York police detective who was an expert in facial recognition identified him and got that information to a good friend of mine. My good friend died suddenly back on July the 27th, Jay Walton. So we still don't know who that assailant was. But he did say this, he said the man was local, he was Greek, he lived in Baltimore City, but he's still at large. And the Baltimore City Police have done nothing. Who has another question?
Time. We have time for
One more question. No more questions. Come up.
Oh, we got it.
There you go, Susan. Get over here so they can see you.
Just going back to your time when you were pro-life and you were a minister and you left all that, tell us about your husband, how he supported you. Did he also become Catholic?
He did, yeah, he did. We both became Catholic together. Thank you, Jesus, for him and for his patience. And I told some of you two things. My husband died about 8 years ago, and we were married. Look, hello, got identification here. We were married 53 years. Anyway, the two things, and this is very romantic, I hope it doesn't embarrass you, but there are two things that I really miss about my handsome, tall, pro-life husband. Number one is the fact that I have sometimes just frigidly cold feet. And he built us a brown bed. Why? Because he said you can't get cornered in a round bed. So for the last 53 years, I've been sleeping in a round bed. But now that he is in heaven, thank you, dear.
We hope he's in heaven.
Yeah, it's up to God, obviously. But he was a believer and was very, very patient with me. But anyway, when I'd get into bed, I'd say, "Cold feet coming to bed." And he'd laugh. I mean, he was a good sport about things. And the other thing I really miss about
He
him.
had warm feet.
What?
He had very warm feet, that's what you.
Oh yeah. But the other thing is, I miss him taking out the trash.
Time to talk about Chevys.
Isn't that romantic? I think so.
It's time to talk about Chevys.
No.
Chevy Chase.
Oh, Chevy Chase. Oh yeah.
So,
We want to thank you again, Olga Fairfax, for your devotion to the pro-life movement all these many years. May God bless you for your efforts and long live Christ our King. This is Jack Ames with the Thank you very much.